Welcome to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. I'm your host, Brendyn Jones. Joined as always with my producer, the consistent Reddy.
Consistent.
I didn't even mean the double entendre with your last name.
I like the setup.
Yeah, I'm trying to hype you up. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Nithin Reddy in the building today, as always. How you doing, Nithin?
I'm doing good. I'm kind of hungry though, because I got a cooking. What am I saying? I got a chicken that's slow cooking.
Oh,
so it's been cooking for like
so
like 6 hours now.
Really?
It's got like 2 more to go, so I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. That's amazing. I kind of had lunch, but not really, so I'm also hungry. But I don't know what I'm gonna have for dinner. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be here on this Monday. It's warm. I looked at the weather. It's supposed to be in the 40s and 50s for the next week and a half.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It's gonna be nice. March is around the corner. Spring is around the corner. My favorite month. I'm so glad that after this past week, the snow is finally melting. But I'm more excited about Illinois basketball.
Oh, how can you not be excited about Illinois basketball?
On Sunday, they won their 7th straight game against the Minnesota team. In Minnesota, a team that at home has beaten Michigan, has beaten, I think, Ohio State, has beaten Iowa. And not only did Illinois win, probably the best game they've played all year. Outside of maybe that Wisconsin game, you could argue for that. But they beat Minnesota by 31 points. Just totally destroyed them in the second half. There was no letting off the pedal, as we've seen sometimes with this Illinois team. And yeah, I mean, it was a really fun watch. There were, I don't know how many dunks, but that's what everybody talks about. Kofi Cockburn shooting 9 of 12, 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Shout out to Kofi, 22 points, 6 rebounds, kind of low for him, but I mean, Illinois didn't miss a lot, so it's not like you needed to rebound like that. Jacob Granderson, 3 for 4 and 4 for 4 from the line with 12 points. Ayo Dosunmu with yet another triple-double, only the 4th in school history, 2nd this season by the chosen one, Ayo Dosunmu. 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 19 points, only 3 turnovers. Trent Frazier had an amazing first half. In the game, he went 5 for 9, 3 from 4 from deep, including one of the most Trent Frazier plays I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Gets into the passing lane, steals the ball with 3 seconds left in halftime or before the half. Launches a half court shot, nothing but net. If you could describe Trent Frazier in one play, it's that play.
Mm-hmm.
He had 6 steals. Goodness gracious, he gets in the passing lanes better than anybody I've seen in college basketball. Shout out to him. Everybody got minutes. Connor Servin, BBV, Coleman Hawkins, Brandon Lieb, Jermaine Hamlin. Even Tyler Underwood got out there. He did not dunk, though, unfortunately. But, yeah, I mean, this was just a complete rout from the first minute on by Illinois. It was one of the best games I've seen them play in my whole time at Illinois. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, it was a great win. I'm not, like, super excited about it just because we kind of saw this already. We saw this when
the first game.
Yeah, Illinois played Minnesota in Champaign. It was, I'd say, more dominant, though, because Minnesota hit a lot of tough threes in the first half, and it still wasn't enough. Liam Robbins played pretty good defensively, blocking a lot of shots inside. I think he's the Big Ten leader in blocks.
Yeah, he was a menace.
But, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Ayo Dosunmu's triple-double being one of the catalysts for this win. I mean, he probably isn't deserving of it, and that's not me to say, like, Ayo isn't great or anything, but I think he had, like, 5 rebounds with 5 or 6 minutes left.
Yeah, it was a stat pad.
Yeah,
He wanted to go get it.
Brad Underwood even said it after the game. He said, I left Iowa in so he could get that triple-double.
It was very funny to watch the last few minutes of the second half when you knew the game was over, but you just saw Ayo Dosunmu out there, like, and you're like, okay, like, he had 9 rebounds for, like 4 minutes left, he had, like, 9 rebounds, and he didn't get his final rebound until, like, 2.5, and every time somebody put up a shot, you were looking for Ayo to see where he was, see if he was in position for the rebound. One finally bounced his way with about 2.5 minutes left. As soon as that happened, they got over cross court, called the timeout, did not want to risk anybody's health, took Ayo out. But yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't. I feel like and we're splitting hairs here because we're talking about triple doubles in college, which happens so rarely.
Yeah.
But the Wisconsin triple double felt very natural. Felt like he wasn't necessarily chasing it.
There was a little bit of it.
A little bit of it, but like in terms of like, it felt like he wasn't struggling to get, not struggling, that's a bad word. It felt like he wasn't reaching to get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It felt like it kind of just happened. He was making the right passes. He was also playing a lot on offense. And the rebounds were just coming his way. This one, though, I think he had like maybe 2 rebounds at halftime.
Yeah, it wasn't a ton.
And like maybe 4 assists. He definitely was out there trying to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him, though. I mean, if you can go do that and like you can decide, even at halftime, because it's not like he had like 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 10 points at halftime, and it's like, oh man, I could easily get a triple-double. He decided to go get 8 rebounds and a half and 6 assists and still score however many points he did in the second half. But I mean, that's just what you can do when you're the best player in the nation. And I'm going to say that here. I've said it before. When you're the best player in the nation, that's the type of stuff you can do. Good for him. He is cementing his resume as an all-time Illinois great.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad because, I mean, Illinois fans are watching the last few games of Ayo Dosunmu. We've watched it.
Yeah.
We've watched it for the last 2.5 years. We were robbed of a tournament run last year. This year doesn't look like
it kind of might have helped Illinois.
Oh yeah, he might not have been here this year if there was a tournament last year. But look, I mean, enjoy it. There's 5 more regular season games left. There's the Northwestern game, Ohio State,
Ohio State,
Nebraska.
Wait, no, not Northwestern. Michigan State, Ohio State.
Oh yeah, Michigan State,
Nebraska.
Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan.
Is that just 4 games left? Oh, Wisconsin.
Yes, there's a Wisconsin game. So there's 5 more regular season games left. Then the Big Ten tournament, and then the NCAA tournament. So you're in the range between 8 and 14 games left, something like that, if my math is correct. See, 14 seems too high, doesn't it?
That seems pretty high. So Big Ten tournament would be 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets you to
5,
8. Yeah, I guess 14.
So yeah, between 8 and 14 more games left. Enjoy them, watch them all, because this kid is going to go to the NBA draft next year, and you won't see him in a Fighting Illini uniform.
Mm-hmm.
As sad as that is, you got to be happy for the guy. He's given everything he has to this program, and more. He's fulfilled every promise, and he's literally transformed the direction of Illinois basketball. Because 2 years ago, who would have thought that Illinois would be 5th in the AP poll and leading in a lot of statistics? So good for him. That's amazing. Is this style of play for Illinois? And by style, I mean not necessarily the way they play, but this momentum that they're on. 7 straight wins. And just routing Minnesota at one of the hardest places to play in the Big Ten. Is this sustainable for the next 5 games of the regular season, Nithin?
So even though I talked about earlier not being too excited about the win, it's nice to see a blowout because we've seen a lot of close games lately. And this one was a nice, we're better than you, in this case, Minnesota, and we're going to show it throughout the entire game. I think it's sustainable to play complete games.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is going to be what happens when you play in Ohio State, what happens when you play in Michigan. Because we saw it earlier in the year with Ohio State. We saw a first half that was pretty poorly played, and then a great second half. And Michigan, if you've watched them lately since they've come back, they look good.
Yeah,
they look
really good
because they're kind of the opposite of Illinois right now. Illinois relies on 2 guys heavily. They rely on Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn, and then it's can I get that third guy to help out? And it's been a struggle at times. We've seen like the Maryland game where no one stepped up, and as a result, Illinois lost. Michigan's got, I'd say, 4 guys you trust. Trust Hunter Dickinson, trust Isaiah Livers, you trust Franz Wagner, and then you could just add in one of 4 guys to that mix. There are so many players that Michigan has. They don't have the go-to guy.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we're getting performances like we did from Trent Frazier, I feel confident that this is legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. That's what we've been talking about all year is what are the role players going to do? And when you see the role players show up, like for Frazier and not to mention Grandison did on Saturday, you get wins like this. You get wins against Minnesota that nobody really has had all year in Minnesota. That's probably the word. I don't know. They lost 1 more game at home.
I think it was Rutgers.
It was Rutgers, and I don't think Rutgers beat them.
It was a 5-point. I'll pull it up.
Thank you. That's why Nithin's always ready. But nobody beats Minnesota like that in the Twin Cities, and Illinois did because their role players were just really good, and they were able to. Obviously, you had good performances from Kofi and Aha. You're going to get that pretty much every game, but you also had Trent Frazier, Grandison, other guys step up and just be just there and contribute to the offense. So you're going to need to see, and this is why we talked about this stretch: Nebraska, Northwestern, Minnesota, Michigan State, and then I guess Nebraska again being important for the role players, is because if they can get their shot, if they can get their confidence, if they can get their rhythm in this offense, then Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio State, a 3-game stretch where I would love to see Illinois go 2-1, and that'd be perfectly fine. That's going to be more realistic than if you have to face Michigan and Ohio State, who just played on Sunday, who we can talk about later, who both look like, I think, better than Illinois a lot of times, in that game. So it'll be interesting to see. But this stretch on Minnesota on Saturday started off a stretch 5 games in 11 days, a very NBA type schedule, because of all the rescheduled games that had to happen. They talked about today on the press conference that this is going to be what the NCAA tournament is like. This is what the Big Ten tournament is going to be like. Are you worried at all, these guys playing this type of schedule?
No, because there's a nice ease into it.
Yeah.
Michigan State, Nebraska. Those are easy games to play, theoretically easy games. Oh, also on the Minnesota point, they lost 1 game, and it was to Maryland by 14. So they have lost substantially, but still, they beat Michigan, they beat Ohio State, they beat Iowa, they beat great teams at home. But with this stretch, the back half is a little concerning because your toughest games come in the last 3, and specifically the last 2 against Michigan and Ohio State. I think it's about separating this stretch into 2 mini little runs. The first 3 games: Michigan State, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's played pretty bad lately.
Yeah,
like they're closer to Michigan State or Nebraska than they are to an Ohio State, Michigan, or Illinois at this point. So I think you just have to go 3-0 in that stretch. Last 2 games is where there's some leeway. The big thing is, can you win that Michigan game? Because if you win the Michigan game, you lose the Ohio State game, you're set up pretty well for the Big Ten tournament. At least you feel confident, even though you'll have 2 losses to Ohio State. But you'll likely have a 2 seed, and you'll feel like you can beat Michigan. I know this team can beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I do as well.
I've seen it played out. The thing is, can you play defense on Ohio State? Because Ohio State's, I talked about how Michigan's the inverse of Illinois, but it's similar with Ohio State in that Illinois uses their defense a lot to help get them into transition and help lead them to points and scoring. Ohio State is offense first. They love shooting threes. You got guys like E.J. Liddell, Dwayne Washington, C.J. Walker, Kyle Young. You have a lot of these great offensive players. And defensively, you saw it against Michigan. They could not stop Hunter Dickinson
at all
inside.
At all. Yeah, so that'll be. I like that matchup. It's tough because, like you said, against Michigan, like you would love for them to go through the stretch and win all 3 games, but it's just unrealistic with that type of schedule. Wisconsin may or may not be ranked by the time you see them, but Michigan and Ohio State are going to be the best teams in the country still, unless unforeseeable consequences or circumstances where Ohio State or Michigan just flops, which I don't see that happening.
I think Ohio State it might be possible just because they have more losses than Michigan, and they have 5 losses, and I think they have to play Iowa still, and they haven't always played consistently this year. I mean, lately
they started off not very shaky, but shaky. And in the middle of the season, they just went on a run right after they beat Illinois. They lost to Northwestern early in the year. But yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what Illinois matches up with Ohio State, because I think both Illinois and Ohio State are better than they were when they first saw each other in the beginning of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how do they handle E.J. Liddell. Now that, when he played Illinois, I think before the game was shooting 3 for like 17 from behind the arc. Now has become a more consistent shooter, become their really good scorer. Like you said, Washington, like 30 points on Sunday. Some guy that can get them buckets. A lot of offense to go around, how Illinois handles that. And then on the Michigan side, we know how good when Illinois is on, how good defensively they can be. But Michigan has all those weapons that they can utilize. You saw it against Ohio State if you watch that game. So that'll be an interesting game. Those games being 4 days apart is going to be really, really good basketball to end off the season. And then I don't think Illinois is really going to have that opportunity to catch Michigan in the Big Ten standings race. Michigan just looks too good right now, unless they.
I think the Iowa game would be big for that.
Yeah.
So if we assume Illinois wins out, they'd need Michigan to lose to Iowa.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's possible.
It's possible, but I don't know. I don't trust Iowa's defense.
Yeah, but Iowa's one of those teams where we talk about teams in the NBA, how you can lose any night just because of 3-point shooting.
Yeah, and they're one
it's the same way with Iowa.
That's why they scare me. I'd rather play Ohio State than I'd play Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because, like, I remember
play Wisconsin 3 times.
Yeah, I would also rather play Wisconsin 3 times. But like, I remember 2 years ago in the Big Ten tournament when Illinois drew Iowa. And Iowa just shot the lights out. And there was nothing you could do about that. And you watch that game, it was very demoralizing. Even last year, the first time they played each other earlier in the season at Iowa was just, there was nothing you could do about that 3-point shot. So, especially with C.J. Frederick coming back, if there's ever a situation who you don't want to face, it's probably Iowa. Even though their defense is shaky, their offense is just so explosive. You never want to see that. And, of course, they have the second best player, in my opinion, in the nation in Luka Garza, and you never want to see that. But we get ahead of ourselves. That's Big Ten tournament. Realistically, do you see Illinois catching up to Michigan and getting the first place in Big Ten?
No. Like, if I had to put odds on it, I'd say, like, plus 500, plus 600, because you need a lot of things to go right. One, you need Illinois to play the best they've played all season. And that's even saying what we've seen in this 7-game stretch. You need them to play even better to beat Michigan and Ohio State, which, honestly, if they split that, I will be very happy.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with that, as long as your loss isn't a blowout. You also need Michigan to lose a game, and I don't have their schedule pulled up, but I'm pretty sure Iowa's the only tough game left. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's Iowa and then Illinois.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But we're also assuming that Illinois would win that game,
right?
If we're trying to match up,
right? That's what we're saying, is that if Illinois wants to be in the first place, they have to win this game. They pretty much have to win out, to avoid Michigan just winning by default. But I mean, man, it'll be interesting. It's wild sitting here thinking that 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10, and Iowa still has the ability to kind of grow, like, keep shooting up the rankings. But yeah, I mean, this is we've talked about it all year. This is the best, maybe one of the best times the Big Ten Conference has ever had. And going into the Big Ten tournament, it's very exciting because even we've seen Iowa flutter and they've kind of rebounded from that. But we've seen Illinois flutter; they've rebounded from that. When you look at this Big Ten tournament, any one of these top 4 teams can win, and that's what's so exciting, but also scary about this Big Ten tournament, is that it feels like it could be Illinois, but at the same time, it feels like it could be Michigan. It feels like it could be Ohio State. It feels like it could be Iowa. So it'll be interesting. I'm very excited for the next 3 weeks.
This is the stretch. This is the stretch. You got 2 weeks. 2 weeks of basketball to be played in the regular season. Then you got the Big Ten tournament, and it sucks that there won't be fans because the Big Ten tournament's always a great venue for fans. The NCAA tournament too, but although they did announce that some fans are going to be attending the NCAA tournament, this is when we're going to get the best games. We're going to get Iowa, Michigan. We're going to get Illinois, Ohio State. We're going to get Illinois, Michigan. We're going to get some great moments upcoming, and now is when Illinois just has to peak. This is when you peak. This is when you find your inner UConn and you decide you're going to be a great team. And that's how you get a 1 seed, because frankly, we've talked about it. You need a 1 seed this year.
Yeah, you do need a 1 seed because you want to avoid Baylor. You want to avoid Gonzaga for as long as possible because we talk about how good the Big Ten teams are. Those guys are still a step above, and they have been since the beginning of the season. They haven't fluttered. Granted, they're in weaker conferences, but still they have beat teams in the metrics. They're still number 1 and number 2. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting. yeah, you really need that 1 seed, and that's where this Ohio State game, especially at the end of the season, comes in so important.
Yep.
You can lose to Michigan and beat Ohio State and do well enough in the Big Ten tournament and still get a 1 seed, but it'll just come down to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of this might not matter because the Big Ten tournament might be the deciding factor.
Right, exactly.
I'm at this point, I think the only way Michigan gets left out is if Ohio State wins out and Illinois wins out, maybe besides the Ohio State game, and then Illinois or Ohio State win the Big Ten tournament. So it kind of feels like Michigan's going to get that third 1 seed.
Yeah.
But that last spot is up for grabs because even if Illinois beats Ohio State, what if Ohio State wins
Beats
the Big
them
Ten tournament?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So there's a lot of
2-1.
a lot of things that could happen. We've already talked about this. Iowa could still be in the mix. They're a little far out, but they still have a shot at it.
Yeah. Man, it'll be interesting these next 3 weeks. Keep your eye on Big Ten basketball. This is the best it's been in a minute, and Michigan is going to have another number 1 recruiting class next year. So
yeah, frightening.
And Illinois is losing some guys. So maybe it won't be like this next year. So enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy it while it is. But we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about college basketball, but then dive into some NBA stuff and other things. So stay tuned on the Line of Drive, 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive, 107.1 WPGU. Michigan State is not the Michigan State they've been in the past few years. They sit at 11-9, 5-9 in the conference. So what's been a very up year for the Big Ten has not really included them in that conversation.
It's a bad year for the Blue Bloods.
It is a bad year for the that was a alliteration. Yeah. For the Blue Bloods. Trying to speak through a mask, it's tough. But that's okay because it's a good year for Illinois. But Michigan State, as they sit right now, are at best a bubble team in the tournament. They would have to do some stuff in this last couple weeks, especially in the Big Ten tournament, to kind of make their case to get in there into the NCAA tournament. But I just feel like they're a little bit too far back, especially because their conference record is really bad.
Yeah, I think bubble's kind of a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the bubble of the bubble.
Right. They'd have to have a best case scenario last 3 weeks to even be considered a part of that. So, but it is what it is. I didn't want to see the Michigan State team in the NCAA tournament anymore. Either way, but yeah, I mean, this is a game that is like the Northwestern game, or that is like this past Minnesota game. This is a game against a team that is not terrible, but you should beat. You should beat thoroughly, and there really shouldn't be a question about it. But you know, Illinois, there's always questions when it comes to these types of games. What are you looking forward to in this game, matchup-wise, and what does Illinois need to do to make sure that they take this game, convincingly?
So this feels like a big IO game where he just takes over because point guard is a big problem for Michigan State. Rocket Watts, they expected to fill that role, and he's been bad this year. He's just not lived up to the hype. I mean, Aaron Henry's been solid, but they don't have a ton of offensive pieces. So as long as the Illini defense just stands strong and looks how they've looked these last 5 or so games, I don't think there's too much to be concerned about, because if you watched any of the Michigan State-Indiana game, Michigan State kind of made it dirty, and they forced Indiana to go stretches without scoring, which has happened throughout the year, and I feel more confident that Illinois won't have those droughts because you have, in our opinions, the best player in the country. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about this game, just as long as Illinois plays like they have been. They don't even need to play like Minnesota. Just play like you did against, I don't know, like overtime against Nebraska. Like, just don't be terrible, essentially.
I understand. I feel that. I think this needs to be as you said, obviously I was going to have his game. I think this needs to be another big Kofi game. As I'm looking at the roster, as I'm looking at the height, obviously Joey Hauser is kind of big guy, but I don't think he really has the ability to defend Kofi Coburn.
I mean, he's more of a skilled player. He's not really a defensive player.
And that's me saying that, given that maybe 95% of the world can't defend Kofi Coburn. But, yeah, I think he really needs to take advantage of this. This needs to be another 1-2 game like we saw Minnesota, like we saw against Wisconsin. This needs to be the game that they all come together, and then as soon as they get rolling, Michigan State's going to try to take that away, make it dirty. Obviously, Izzo, not dirty, but make it a grinded out game. Obviously, Izzo's a great coach, but that's when Jacob Grandison needs to step up. That's when Trent Frazier needs to step up. I kind of want to see this be a game where you're up 10 or 15, so guys like Coleman Hawkins can get out there and do some stuff. So guys like Andre Curbelo can continue to get that way, because as the season closes, as the Big Ten tournament starts, as the NCAA tournament starts, you're really going to have to close up that rotation, as we've seen against teams like in Iowa. I think 8 or 9 guys played, except for in contrast to Michigan, where maybe 13 or 14 played. This is going to be a game where you really need to see, okay, who's going to be those guys in those situations. Obviously, you have DeMonte Williams, right? Obviously, you have Georgie Bashaniashvili, who's going to be there. But how are you going to close up your rotation? Or is it going to be Andre Curbelo that needs to step up and not turn the ball over and make smarter shots and decisions? How is Coleman Hawkins going to go into effect in this? So that's all important. That's all necessary. And I think this is a game that Illinois also has to take seriously, because while Michigan State obviously has struggled this year, they've had a good win against Rutgers right here.
They're hungry.
Right, they're hungry. And this is a team that isn't used to not succeeding in these stretches, and not succeeding, especially against teams like Illinois, who have chronically been bad in the last decade. So they really need to step up and kind of put the nail in the coffin and be like, hey, this is the last game maybe in our schedule that is one of those, sleeper games that we talk about, like the Rutgers game that Illinois played, like the Nebraska game that Illinois, or not the Nebraska game that Illinois played, the Maryland game that Illinois played. So you kind of need to put the nail in the coffin and be like, okay, the issues that we had mid-season are past us, and we're ready to compete in these last 3 games that are so important in the regular season, and compete in the Big Ten and NCAA tournament, and be a well-rounded team and reach our peak like you've been talking about. This is that game. Are they going to do that? I don't know. It scares me.
Yeah, I'm going to even simplify it more. Just stop Aaron Henry.
Yeah.
As long as Aaron Henry doesn't have a big game, he scored 27 points against Indiana. He shot really well from the field. Stop Aaron Henry. That's their offense at this point. There isn't too many playmakers on the Michigan State roster. Stop Aaron Henry and just do what you do offensively. This is a game where we've talked about these games. Yeah, it would be kind of nice if the role player stepped up. Give me a good Adam Miller game. Can he score 15, 16 points? Can Andre Curbelo have 6 assists? Because he hasn't had those big assist games in a decent amount of time. So just let the role players step up and stop Aaron Henry. I think it's a pretty simple formula. The concern is that you get a Nebraska-like performance where you don't take them seriously. They start hitting threes, and then you're down 5 with 2 minutes left, and you got to claw your way back.
Yeah, and those are the games you don't want, because those are the games you lose easily. We've seen Indiana, Nebraska, where you're down or you're struggling in the last half, but you're able to claw because you have guys like Trent Frazier, who stepped up in that Indiana game. But that's not always going to go your way.
Yeah.
And it hasn't at times. Missouri, it didn't happen, right? Rutgers, it didn't happen. Maryland, it didn't happen. So this could be a game where it doesn't happen. And a loss to a team like Michigan State right now wouldn't necessarily destroy your hopes, but you would pretty much be a 2-seed lock.
Yeah, you're not a 1 seed.
You really can't be a 1 seed at that point unless other 1 seeds also start to fail. And you just can't rely on that. This has been the stretch where we talk about let's keep it in Illinois' destiny. Let's make sure that they are controlling their fate. And this is a part of controlling your fate. You got to win those games. You have to do that as the number 5 ranked team in the country. So we shall see if they do it, man. I'm worried, though. This is a game that worries me.
Does it worry you in that, the risk reward where winning this game doesn't mean anything, but losing this game means a whole lot? Or okay, my other thing was just, do you think they're going to lose?
I don't think they're going to lose.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think legitimately, this 7-game stretch has given me a lot of confidence in Illinois, even though there was I would say not flop, but the bad performance against Indiana and Nebraska.
And even the second half against Northwestern.
I forget about that game. Even the second half against Northwestern, it worries me a little bit because they can always lose. These are talented guys across the entirety of D1 basketball, right? So anybody can lose. But it worries me that Illinois is now they just destroyed Minnesota in a game situation that Ohio State, Iowa, and Michigan all failed in, and they just destroyed them, right? And they're like on the top of the world, seventh game in a row, and this is their 8th game, and it's kind of tricky. You know what I mean? Because they're looking forward to, oh man, our game against Michigan got scheduled, and we have to play Ohio State, and we have to play Wisconsin again. Kind of looking forward to that and being like, okay, how do we get that? And looking past a very hungry Michigan State team.
Yeah, I think that's a fair concern. We had some concerns at the beginning of the stretch with Nebraska, and then it was seen out where you go to overtime. So just take care of business. That's all I ask for. I'm guessing that's all you ask for.
Yeah.
Win this game by 10 points. Don't make us miserable like you have at times.
Right.
And be the number 5 team in the country, because you can't lose this game.
And that's the biggest thing about Illinois for pretty much the most of the season, is that when they play to their potential, I think that there is no team in the country they can't compete with. And there's 99% of the country that they can beat easily when they play to their potential. We've seen it in Wisconsin. We've seen it against Minnesota. Teams that are solid teams that Illinois just routes because they play as well as they can. We've also seen them play really bad. So this is the point, as you said, and you're going to hear this from me and Nithin probably the next 4 or 5 weeks. If you play your best, you're going to do that, and you're going to be amazing. Yeah. But it's just about to peak. That's what it is. And this is the time where you have to peak. This is the time where legends are made. This is the time where, like sports books are written about.
Yep.
Right? Like this could be a season that Illinois has a book about in 25 years. That people read and it's like, man, like that 2020, that 20
even more than that season, you have a chance to get a banner.
Yeah, that's what it is. Multiple banners this year. And people are like, in 15 years, me and Nithin are going to be old and reminisce, man. Remember
old in 15 years?
Older than I am now. Okay, 25 years, me and Nithin are reminiscing like, oh man, remember when we would go twice a week and talk about that team that made us angry, but at the end of the year made us so happy? Or it could be, what if? It could be a what-if situation. What if they play better against Michigan State? What if they what if they didn't lose against Michigan and Ohio State in back-to-back games at the end of the season? That's what it is. And this is what that is. And as much as I think that they can do it, there's also concerns about this team that I have not fully, left my mind. So this is the first step tomorrow, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and our inner Illini fans are coming out a bit.
I've abandoned journalistic integrity, or not integrity.
Well,
but
more than that, it's just we've seen heartbreak over and over and over.
I've been hurt,
and we're prepared for it. Like we're not even prepared for it. We're expecting it. So the great thing though is that we have one guy that we've never seen this good. We've never seen Ayo Dosunmu. The way he's able to close out games down the stretch. The way, as scared as I was during the Nebraska game, Ayo has proven that he can pull off games like that. He did that against Nebraska. He did that against Northwestern. He did that last year against Michigan and Wisconsin. And he did his best to do it against Missouri, but we can get into that.
Yeah.
But when the going gets tough, Ayo Dosunmu plays his best. And we've seen it over and over and over. So even though we might feel like this game could be close at times, and down the stretch, it might be even a 2-point game with 3 minutes left. I still have that in the back of my mind where I know Ayo's going to make a play. Will he just make enough plays? Aside from the Indiana game, he's been phenomenal down the stretch.
Yeah. There's not been a game where I feel like we're out. Even the Missouri game. Missouri kept scoring, but Ayo did too. So I never felt until it was really over that that Illinois was out of it. Man, we could sit here and talk about Ayo all day.
We could.
Maybe we will next year in the NBA. But that's where we're headed now. Headed just north to Chicago, 2 hours north. The Bulls. The Bulls have started off pretty strong for me. I mean, strong in given their expectations. Filled out what I thought they were going to do. Have kind of struggled a little bit, but are kind of back on top. Not back on top of anything, but back on track. Last week, they went 3-1, only lost to the number one team in the East, the 76ers. Joel Embiid put up like 50 and 17. I think that's how many rebounds he had. Nobody could really guard him. Nobody can really guard him regardless, but especially on the Bulls, nobody could guard him. But Zach LaVine is playing pretty much out of his mind. I
Book
know.
it, all-star. Just
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. He's been for me. He's been playing at all-star level throughout the entire season.
yeah,
The past 2 weeks or so, he's been playing at an all-star starter level.
yeah.
I would say he's led this team. He's done good. This team is 13-16 right now. One game behind 8th seed, so still pretty tough. But it's trending up, and I think that they play the Rockets, who've lost like 7 straight right now, and then they play the Timberwolves, who are just fired their coach, and
That's just a whole weird situation.
that is a really
they
weird
fire
situation.
their coach, and like 20 minutes later,
hired a guy from a different organization,
Yeah.
which is like it is a pretty unheard of situation in the NBA. But hey, whatever. But those are the 2 worst teams in the Western Conference. The Bulls really need to capitalize. The Rockets, who have just parted ways with DeMarcus Cousins, but they're still really good. Christian Wood's been injured though. But defensively, when that trade first happened for John Wall, or not just John Wall, for the rest of the guys when that big trade with James Harden happened, they were really, really good defensively. They faced injury problems, so we'll see what happens there. But this is a team that could also beat the Bulls. So I don't know. What is your take on the Bulls right now?
It's, I think, the same take I've had throughout the year. Get to the 10 seed.
Yeah,
That's what you need to do. And right now, the 10 seed's Miami. They're going to pass you. I feel like that's a guarantee at this point, especially the way. Did you watch that Heat Lakers game?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The end of it.
That ending was crazy.
It was wild.
They're going to pass you. They're probably going to get somewhere in like the 6 seed range. The Bulls just need to. We've wanted incremental improvement, and it looks like they're getting there.
Yeah.
The great thing is that Zach LaVine has played great, and you still have Lauri Markkanen, who's missed a lot of time. He's going to be coming back, and you're going to get your secondary option right now. The thing I've loved about this team, though, lately, after Kobe White struggled really throughout the first half of this season, he's been great lately. Last few weeks, he's hitting his open threes, and he's just playing his role. And as long as the Bulls keep up this play, I mean, the teams below them, Hawks, I'm a little concerned about, but like Magic, Wizards, Cavs, Pistons, I don't see any of them catching the Bulls. I think they're going to be in this sort of blob, this 7-10 blob with the Knicks, Hornets, Bulls, and then the Hawks. So as long as you can be somewhere in the middle of that and try to get into that play-in game, this should be a playoff team or a playoff play-in team.
100%. And then, I mean, I think that's all you really want from this team, because at the end of the day, like last year, this team was really bad, and there was a lot of guys quitting on Jim Boylan, on the whole staff, pretty much. And you bring in this new front office, you bring in this new coach, and guys really buy in, and you can see that. You can see it. This is a team that is, except for some role players, very, very, very similar to last year's team. There's not a lot that's different, except for they're re-energized, they bought in, and this staff is getting the best out of the players that they can. Granted, they've had injury problems. Markkanen and Carter have faced injury problems throughout their whole year, and there's rarely been a time where the correct starting lineup that you want on the court is there consistently. But when that happens, this team is really, really good.
It is.
And, as Markkanen comes back and as, Carter still, gets his feet under him, this team can only get better. I just hope they stay healthy. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I think if they, are able to get a top 10 seed, or if they fall behind, maybe the Hawks.
Yeah, and the thing that you like to see is that this team is kind of fun for the first time in a while.
Very fun. They don't play a lot of defense, but their offense is fun.
They don't play a lot of defense, but watching Zach LaVine every night, it's just like, can anyone guard him? Because
is it legitimately? I don't know.
Yeah, I want to see. I need to see I mean, I guess we just saw it, but more of like the Sixers matchup.
Yeah,
because they have some guys that you could throw at him, specifically Ben Simmons. Zach LaVine, though, has been so good this year, because he's always been quick enough to get by you, but now his jumper's improved so much. And last year, he shot pretty well from three, I think like 38%, which is very good. But he couldn't hit a mid-range jumper to save his life.
Right.
And that was kind of his game before the three-point sort of revolution in his game evolved. Now he's one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. He's also one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He's also impossible to guard when he's attacking with a full head of steam, because he's so quick. He's so strong for his size, and he's also Zach LaVine, the guy that's won 2 dunk
Right.
contests and can get up in the air.
Nobody wants to jump with him.
In a flash.
And he's trying to play defense.
Yeah.
That's a big improvement. That's something that's so important because him being, a long, twitchy, like kind of fast guy is so like there's been a lot of times like he'll get it like a quick steal, he'll jump in a passing lane, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's always really had that. But his on-ball defense has been such an improvement this year. And
he's giving effort.
Right, he's giving effort, and that's the biggest thing. And that's important when you look at, the other side where, you have Patrick Williams, who's a really good defender, right? You have guys like that who you think you can put around him, but then you also have guys that he doesn't have to carry the full offensive load anymore. Mm-hmm. Even though he still is in a weird way. Yeah. But I feel like there's more comfortability, especially with the bench, that you feel like if Zach LaVine's not on the court, you still have guys you are comfortable with throwing out there and being like, okay, we can still keep up, the scoring pace. Like the Bulls bench is one of the best benches in the league, offensively. So it's very interesting to see. I'm very excited about this team. We're going to hit our, it's not even mid-season right now, maybe a third of the season in awards.
Well, it's almost mid-season because
feels so. It's 72 games, right? And the Bulls are 28 in or 29 in. Yeah. Wow, this season is going by quick.
It is.
All right, mid-season awards. Give me your MVP, your most improved player, your defensive player of the year, and your sixth man. We'll go sixth man too.
Okay, so MVP, Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
like he's been so good. Sixers are great. I don't really think there's another candidate. Like people are saying LeBron, but Joel Embiid,
I was looking at LeBron's numbers. He's not really a candidate.
Yeah, he's a candidate in the sense that there aren't really a ton of candidates this year. It's really Joel Embiid and some other dudes because Joel Embiid's been that good. Why don't you give your MVP? Let's just go back
definitely. I will also give my MVP. While I think LeBron should always be in that conversation, they're struggling right now without Anthony Davis, which just shows you. Not obviously, this is a team game. It's important to have a second best player, but it shows you that LeBron maybe isn't as statistically dominant or that it looks, especially in the beginning of the year when this Lakers team was just firing on all cylinders. But the Sixers team has always been a team with under Joel Embiid that you could expect to finish between third and fifth. Yeah. Right now they're pretty heavily in the lead. This Nets are right behind them, but
Nets have been playing really good lately.
They've been playing really well, especially without KD. It'll be interesting to see when he comes back to see if that shakes anything up, and messes up some rhythm or whatever. But Joel Embiid has been the best player on arguably, or definitely the best team in the East. Arguably, one of the best teams in the league. So I got to give my MVP to Joel Embiid.
All right. Next up, what defensive player of the year?
Yeah, defensive player of the year.
So there's some good candidates. You got Rudy Gobert. You got Giannis in the mix. AD would probably be if he wasn't hurt. I'm going Ben Simmons.
You're taking my picks, man.
Ben Simmons has just been locked down, clamps defense throughout. He's guarded LeBron James. He's guarded point guards. He's just switching it up no matter what. He's the ultimate 5-tool defender. And I just can't say enough great things about Ben Simmons' defense. He's my pick.
Yeah, 100%. I think he can guard anybody on the court. He's always been able to do that, but this year it just seems like another step in that. And obviously when his team is the first in the East, he's going to get more recognition. So that's dope. I'm not even going to ask you your rookie of the year. I feel like it's a lock as of right now.
Yeah. It's LaMelo.
At first, it was Tyrese Halliburton. But he's kind of slowed down, and LaMelo has only shot up as he's begun starting. So I won't even ask you that. But who's your most improved player?
I think this is probably the toughest one because most improved is something you need to see throughout the season. I'm just gonna say because of how great he's played throughout the year, although he's been injured. I'm going Christian Wood. There's some great candidates, but Christian Wood, even though he's been injured, his leap is just so astronomical.
Yeah.
As long as he comes back and he can play, I think, like 50 games, I think he should win the award.
Yeah, Christian Wood going from somebody who has bounced around rosters to averaging 20 points a game is really good. I mean, he is the best player on that Rockets team, I think, right now, if he's healthy. But just to be a little different, I'm giving mine to Julius Randle.
That's a good pick.
Not a huge Julius Randle fan. I think that his stats are a little inflated given that he plays in that Tibbs system.
But they're winning.
And that's what's important. They went from one of the worst teams last year to being, I think they're going to make the playoffs unless, something tragic happens with that roster or they just start getting really bad. But shout out to Julius Randle. He's averaging 23 and 11, something like that.
Yeah, and he's
and like
shooting
6
really well.
assists or something.
Yeah, 23, 11, 5.5 assists.
Yeah.
48% from the field,
Good for Julius Randle,
41% from three.
Everybody that was on that Lakers team is doing like so well away from each other now.
Are they though? Like
statistically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really consider D'Angelo Russell doing that well.
Yeah, but I miss the Nets, D'Angelo. I miss that Nets team. That Nets team is so fun. I went to the game where the Nets played the Lakers first year on LeBron's team.
Oh, okay.
It was first year LeBron and the Lakers and the Nets. It was in Brooklyn. I went to the Barclays.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most fun atmospheres I've ever been in. It was like Joe Harrison and Dudley and D'Angelo Russell just had an amazing fourth quarter and were able to put away the Lakers.
It was a fun bench too.
It was. They loved each other. It was so fun. And then the next year they imploded it. But hey, now they're second in the East, so I guess it worked out. Yeah. And then my last one.
Did we cover them all?
I think we did.
Do you want to do an All NBA team? Because that would be a fun.
Throw your quick one out there though.
Okay, so I hate to say this, but Jokic is not on my list.
Really?
Because it's guard, forward, center.
Yeah.
So Embiid's going to be my center.
Yeah.
My two forwards, I'm going to go LeBron. The other forward's tough, though. Because, you know what? No, I was going to say Jaylen Brown, actually.
Really?
But, I don't think you can classify him as a forward. I'm going to go KD then. Because even though he's been injured, he's been so good. Yeah, not much to be said about it. KD. Guards, I got Steph Curry and Dame right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dame's had more winning success. Steph, they're still in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, but his numbers are so good. It's unbelievable.
I really like your list, but for the sake of difference, I'm going to switch up some of them.
All right.
Obviously, I have Steph Curry as my point guard. He's had a phenomenal season. Dame is the first person off my list. But I'm going to put Paul George up there. I think
that's a good pick.
He's had a good season coming back from everything he dealt with in the bubble. So shout out to him. I'm going to put Bron at the 3. There's really no way right now you can leave him off of an All-NBA team.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually put Giannis as my 4.
Okay.
And then, Joel at the 5. I don't see any way you could leave Joel off this list if we both had him as our MVP.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, if we're doing 5 best players, I think Jokic gets in. But Embiid's been so good.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for Monday's edition of Illini Drive. Tomorrow, I'll probably be back in here with maybe somebody else. I don't know. I have to figure that out because there's a game tomorrow. But stay tuned. Listen to us all week. For me, for Nithin, this is Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU.